So guys, we are on air on YouTube. We will be discussing ES6 principles and ES7 principles. Myself, Atishay, I work as a front-end engineer with uh, Times of India. I take care of their mobile web and also some mirror website.
All right, Atisha, thank you for introducing yourself. My name is Navtej Singh. I am working right now in Snapdeal. So I take care of the mobile and the web application, which user use to buy products. And I would like to now invite third member, who is Shivam. Shivam, please introduce.
Yeah, I work in ThoughtWorks Technologies. I work as a front-end developer. I have 2 years of experience in front-end engineering. Basically, I work on the latest technologies in the web world, that is React, Redux, and all. And I have little experience in the back-end work as well. So I think we can start with the discussion for the today's topic.
Okay.
Navtej, yeah, you can start.
Yeah. So we will be starting this discussion in 2 minutes. All right. So this discussion is, as Atisha told, is on ES6 and ES7. So this is new in the market. I mean, new standard has been made. We will be discussing that. And Shivam, can you show the list of the
Yeah.
topics which we are going to cover?
Yeah, sure. I'm sharing my screen, so let me know when you are able to see my screen.
And also tell us how to share the screen. All right. There is a green icon. Yeah, cool.
Let me know if you can see
Yes,
the
yes, we can.
topic list.
Yeah, we are able to see that.
Cool. Nathan, you want to proceed
Yeah.
or shall I?
I will be just scroll down. So all the viewers who are watching this live discussion, I want to tell you, like, those red topics, we are not going to discuss that because it will need extra time. So we will be holding another talk for that. And basically those topics are for the the async communications. So we decided to move that to the next discussion. So we will be taking those topics from the top to bottom, and so name of the talker is mentioned. So I think we are good to proceed now.
Cool, then I'll start with the first topic of ES6, that is default parameters in ES6. I'll
All right.
share a screen to show you about the default parameters, and we'll see some examples of how you can use default parameters. Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Okay.
First is the default parameters. I'll just show you first the comparison how you will write it in ES5 way and the new ES6 way. So you can see here, if say in the default parameters, what the name says is, say you call a function and you supply some parameters to it. And say if you don't pass some parameters, what default parameters you would like your function to have. Say I have a function f which takes parameters x, y, z, and I call that function with only one parameter. What happens is in JavaScript before ES6 version, or even in the newer version, what happens is the other parameters go undefined in that. That means y and z will be undefined if I only pass the first parameter. That means I have to write the code like if y equals to undefined, then assign a value 7 to it. And if z is undefined, assign a value 40 to it. So I'll return x plus y plus z. That means it will return me the value 50, that is 1 plus 7 plus 42. So this is a bigger syntax. We don't have to write these lines. We don't have to check for the undefined values. What we can do is, in the newer syntax of ES6, you can just, while defining your function, what you can do is you can just pass the assignment operators to the values, and this value will only get assigned if you pass undefined or you don't pass any value while calling that function. See here, you call this function with only one parameter and other parameters are undefined. So what happens is y equals 7 and z equals to 42 gets assigned as the default values of y and z variables. So it will return you 1 plus 7 plus 42. So this is how you can your code in the ES6 newer syntax.
So yeah, so basically we have to write now the less code as compared to the previous in the ES5, checking undefined and all. We don't need to do this now.
Right.
All right, cool.
Are there any other questions regarding this? Yeah.
Do you want to jump to the next topic now, or you want to proceed on this?
No. I'll just show you.
So I want to add a simple thing like, so there you have written a y equal to 7. So I just want to tell the viewers like, the y equal to 7, it is not restricted. I mean, we can also add the expression there, and we can also add the function there. Like like the y equal to 7 can be also written as y equal to x plus 7, where the x will be the value which is already we have passed, like the 1.
Okay. Right. I'll show you that all in the next examples. I have some examples of it. We'll see different cases how you can use these default parameters. So you'll see that variation of that. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Then you can hold yourself. Cool. I'll move to the examples. Case 1 is what happens if you explicitly pass undefined. There are two cases. One is like you just pass only one parameter and it defaultly takes that as undefined, the next parameters. But if you pass undefined by yourself, you just typed undefined, even then it will assign it as a default value. Say we'll see this example. There's a function set background color. And it takes first parameter as the element and second is a default assignment, color equals to some rosy brown.
Okay.
So it just sets the background color of that. And if you call the method with only one parameter, then the output will be the color gets assigned because it's a default color and you haven't passed anything. What happens when you actually pass undefined to that? It's still
be the same.
It's the same behavior. Yeah. It's not like that it assigns undefined to that. It again does the same thing and assigns a default value to that.
What if I pass a
this is just
here?
Null?
Then I think the color, I think it should get null, right?
I'm not sure about the null thing, but I think null and undefined are treated as a separate thing in JavaScript.
I think null. It would be null only. If you pass
null only.
Yeah, it should be null. It should be null. Yeah, because by default it's undefined, so that's why
it is just doing the undefined checking. So null is also a value. So it should be null.
Okay.
Right. Okay. We'll move to case 2. When this default values get evaluated, is it at the runtime or is it when you define your function? It happens at the runtime when you call that function. Say I have a function append which takes 2 parameters, value and a second parameter as an array. I call this method with a single parameter, say 1. What happens is it just pushes that value into that array and returns me that array. So it returned me only the array with single element 1, which is an expected behavior. But if I again call this function with some other parameter, what would have happened if it was not runtime? Then what would have happened is there will only be a one reference to an array. So it will push it to the same array. But that is not the case because it is evaluated at the runtime. It always creates a new array in that case. If you call it with a new parameter 2, it will create a new array and will return that element in the array rather than returning both the values in that array. That is what I meant by it is evaluated at runtime when you call that rather than when you define that function.
So this thing is then different from ES5 though. So let's say you are not using this particular syntax. How will you do this in ES5? You would do a undefined checking, the thing which you showed on the top. If array is undefined, create a new array, right? And then append 1.
Yes.
So then next time when you do a append 2, this first check would be false. Array is already created, so it would be 1 and 2.
In that case, you will not declare some new array inside your function. You will just return, say, the element in curly braces. I'll show you what will you do in that case. So you will do this, and if you just return the value in this way. You will not return the complete. If you want it to be like, if you don't want to push the values in the same array, you will return it like this rather than doing array dot
No,
push.
but when next time I will call, the array is already defined.
No, what happens is, say in ES5, this will happen like this. You will not have this.
Yeah, do it in ES5.
Yeah, wait. And takes a value.
Or let's do it in that editor code, whatever it is.
Yeah, maybe we can.
Just give me a minute. I'm going to share the new link. Let me use the session first.
Cool.
Okay.
Till that time, I can.
All right. So please click on this link. Yeah. So you can copy paste your code and you can start, directly there.
Cool. Where have you shared that link?
In the chat box.
Yeah.
I mean, Atisha, what is the confusion? I mean, I think in the ES5 and ES6, the both things will work same. You need to pass that array, which you are getting in the previous append. If you will be passing that array, you will be getting the same reference array. Otherwise, this new array will be created. So you have to check in your function in the ES5.
If the array is still the same or the newer one, you have to check in that case.
Okay.
You can try doing this. It takes an array.
Yes, array, yeah.
And if array
is present,
then you push the value in that array. And you return, if I return this array, what will happen is, otherwise I won't do anything.
No, in the else thing, I think if the array is already present, then you are pushing into the same array, right? Which you are passing. If that is not present, then you have to pass an array, like curly braces here.
Like, if array does not exist already,
then create the new array. Then create
I have to create a new array.
Yes.
I have to push that value to the array.
And return that array.
Yeah, what we can do is, and return this array. This is the expected behavior, but you're like, it's again like you end up writing a lot more code.
Lot of code.
And that just checking if this exists or it doesn't exist.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense if you have the new good syntax you can use. Okay. I'll move on to next thing. Okay, next one is as Navtej mentioned, that if you can use the previous parameter as the next parameter. This is the parameters already encountered are available to later default parameters. Say you have a function that is singular auto plural. You call it with a string gecko. What happens is when you call this function, it takes the first parameter as singular, and the next parameter is it is using the previous parameter of this function and is just adding s to that. So it's first of all it's evaluating this. So that means we can evaluate the parameters, and also we can use the available parameters in the next parameters. As I'm using singular here in next, and even further we can use that.
Okay, all right. So simply, matlab, so this allows us to add the expressions. So
yes, add the expression and use the previous parameters that have been passed to the function.
Okay, cool.
Next one is just want to give you the difference between the complexity, that how much it can vary if you're using ES5 and ES6. This is a simple example of I have a function Go which just returns me a smiley. This is a function without defaults, which is the ES5 way of writing the function. You define a function and you pass 7 parameters to it. And when you call this function, what happens is, say you pass it with only 2 parameters. What happens is, the case 0, it is switching on the arguments length of the function. How many arguments you have passed. Say you have passed 2 arguments. What it will do is, it will execute these 2 cases, because I haven't put a break statement in the case, so it will continue and execute the next statement. It will execute the case 0 and case 1, b5, and then it will assign this value b equals to 5 in that case, and and say if you have 2 parameters, it will start from case 2 here.
Okay.
It will not go to 0 and 1. It will start from 2, and it has to do this part extra for assigning the variables that the user hasn't passed while calling the function. It has to go through case 2, assign C to B, and call the function this, and do this, and do that, and this as well. Then we have a complete array that returns me this parameters. But in new syntax, you can reduce the complexity, saying with defaults you can just do b equals to 5, c equals to b, using previous syntax that we have seen. You can call that function in here. You can assign this to this. You can assign arguments. You can do this. It just means you don't have to write all the switch case that you have just seen.
So the arguments are also allowed. That's cool.
Yeah, arguments is also allowed. You can switch on. This is the complexity difference you can see if you have a you don't know while calling the function that if you know if you are going to pass those parameters or not.
So this and arguments are allowed.
Yeah, this and arguments are also allowed.
Okay, cool.
Any other questions on this? We'll move to the next topic then, if you don't have any other
I don't have any question. It's fine.
Basically, generally we do use defaults to we have used that in Redux, assigning the state. By default, you have to be some state of your app. Otherwise, it will not have any state. So it reduces a lot of code. So it's better to use this. Cool.
Yes.
Okay, we'll see what is the next topic on the list. The next one is the template literals in ES6, and the third one is the multi-line strings in ES6. Basically, I have combined both of the topics because it will be easy to understand if you understand what template literals is and how multi-string works in template literals. What is template literal is, before ES6, you have to append your strings. What you do is you do this. You have a message, you just type string, you have to type a plus sign, then give, say, some variable customer.name, then say you have to add a new line to that after customer.name. What you do is you have to give \n, which is a new line character in JavaScript, and then plus and append and append. This is like a lot of not a clean code to say. But,
and this is very buggy. I mean, sometimes the developer omit the plus sign, and a lot of errors come.
Right. And in ES6, what you can do is simply that this is a backtick syntax. You also call as, you just use a backtick and then type your string hello. Just compare it with the other upper one. This is hello, and this is the same you write. And for this space, you have to explicitly give it a space and then have to close a string. Here, you just give a space, and then if you need to access variables inside the backticks, what you do is, it's the syntax. You have to type $ and then curly braces. Inside curly braces, you have to write that variable. So this is how you access variables in your template literals. And if you want a new line here, you don't have to do anything. You just have to press enter, and you have to write your next line of string from the next line. it will
Okay.
automatically treat it as a different line rather than appending a new line character at time. And also, yeah, this is how the template literal strings. It's very useful because there are a lots of cases. I'll discuss further that how and where it can be useful. Yeah. Is there any question on this? I'll move on the other further examples.
Yeah, just proceed to the examples.
Cool. We'll see the case one where generally what we do is in the URLs we have to use like lot of parameters that we get from somewhere, like user types in something, and we have to pass it to the backend. So generally what we if there was no ES6, we used to type plus plus and all symbols and then the variables. You can simply do dollar this plus this. Say you have two variables, bar and bars, and this is also an expression evaluator. See, you can see that you have two variables like bar and bars. You want to combine those variables. Say it was 1 and it was 2. You want to append, or you want to evaluate that expression. You can also evaluate that in this dollar syntax using the backtick here. This is how you can use it by using query parameters and all.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Moving to the case 2. This is a raw string in case you don't want to evaluate some expression. This is just, I have seen it from the ES6 website, but I haven't used this actually somewhere. But yeah,
So
we'll just explain what it does.
Okay.
Yeah. There is something called as tagged literals. What that means is, say I have a function tag, and it takes a string as a first parameter, and there is some rest parameter that is just all the parameters that we have called. When you call this function, you don't give first of all parentheses. You just pass this as without parentheses, and you pass your string. I have passed my string to this function. So my string is string text line 1, and then I have put a \n, then string text line 2. What would have happened is if I have
So where are the round brackets? I mean, that are required or not?
No, that are not required. This
Why?
is the tag. This is a new syntax of the tag literal. If you want to pass a string to a function, you don't have to pass your parentheses. You can
So
just.
it is a reserved word like the tag, or I can use
No.
it.
It is my tag. It is my function. It is not a reserved function.
Okay.
These are just called as tag literals in
Okay,
ES6.
tag literals. All right.
What would have happened is it would evaluate this string, and what happens is it will put a new line character here because I'm using /n, \n.
Okay.
So what would have output would have been string text line 1, and after one line it will print string text line 2. But what if in my function, if I want to get that raw string but the user has actually passed without evaluating that? Did you get what I mean? Because I don't want to print a new line character. I just want to see what the string the user has passed.
I'm still stuck at the previous thing, like you have passed this whole string with the new line. Okay. So in the console.log, that is strings.ra, which is 0. And
Right.
it is going to print the whole line, or it is just going to print the first part till the next line? I mean,
No.
string text line.
This is the output. It will complete. It will console the complete
Whole line.
line.
Okay.
Evaluate this. A raw string means without evaluation. It's like you don't want to evaluate. Otherwise, if you don't have access this raw string, it would have evaluated this and would have given the output like this.
So, but what is this raw of 0? What will happen if you do raw of 1?
What happens is you can pass multiple. Say what would I'll explain here. Actually, this covers in the next point, but I'll cover it here.
Okay.
Say you have passed some variable that you take from some any parameter. Say you have passed a variable here. If you do string 0 now, it will give you this string only, string text. What happens is it divides the string into multiple parts. String 0 will give you this strings.ra0, and strings.ra1 will give you this string, this complete string.
Okay.
Because it does not evaluate. If you do, say, if you add another some A, B, C, it will divide it into 3 parts. One is string text, next is line 1 and string, another one is text line 2.
Okay.
That's
It
how
is
you can
simply
evaluate.
going to omit the eval part, right?
Eval part is will not be there.
Okay. All right.
So one more question. So you mentioned this backticks. You are calling this function with backticks. So you can call then any function with this backticks.
No, this is only for in the case of string literals, because it internally what is happening here is I'm not sure what internally happened, but what I think is it evaluates it to something. So if you don't pass, say you have another function which does not take string literals, there will be no evaluating at all. It by default evaluates. That's why you can omit the curly the round brackets. But I don't think if you are not using this string literals, you can avoid that curly the parentheses. But we can test that thing.
So simply, I mean, if you are going to call a function without using the round brackets and by giving the literal syntax, okay, so you can access the raw property and you can check, what was the original string which was passed.
Original string and the raw property, everything, yes.
Okay.
And in this values array, you can also access these values that I shown by dollar. We'll move into the next example and you will see how these values can work.
Okay.
Good. Okay, I'll move on to the next point. Next is the expression interpolation that we have already discussed, that we can also evaluate some expression between the backticks. Otherwise, what you have to do is in the ES5A, you have to do this and then append the expression.
Ugly code.
Yeah. You just do this $A plus B and it evaluate all. Right. This is already a discussed, so I'll move on to the next. This is the tag template literals that I was talking about. This is a my tag function I have defined, and I'm calling this my tag with literals without using the parentheses. And this is the doubt that Aditya had. What is string 0 and string 1? This is this and this is that.
Okay.
And person expression, I'll show you how this code works. You call this my tag with that and this expression. So what happens is in strings array, you will have a that as a first string and is a as a second string. And in $person, you have a person expression. And in age expression, you will have $age. This is the other way of saying ... values.
All right. So, okay. Just go to the previous code. Okay, so person expression, where are you using this particular thing?
I person expression.
Okay, at the bottom of the page. All right.
What happens is I'm getting that and is a part of the string, and I'm checking off the with the respect to age expression. Say if age is greater than 99, what the user have passed. I'll say let's say the age what have I passed is 28 and person is Mike. So person expression will take Mike and age expression will take 22, and it will evaluate because our age expression is less than 99, so it will print is str as youngster.
Okay.
So what it will return is string 0, that is this, and person expression that we passed here, string 1, that is this, and age string which is evaluated to this youngster.
Okay.
Mike is a youngster.
Okay.
This way you can use the variables that you have passed in your strings and the raw strings if you want to use.
Okay, so all the variables which we are passing are going to be the rest of the parameters.
The other rest of the parameters. Yeah. This is a new syntax of ES. You can also.
So it is going to return the array of all the
Rest parameter is always an array.
Yeah, I think no one is using this thing.
The rest parameters.
No, I mean the whole my tag or this particular.
Even I don't think it's like quite like used.
Yeah, but it's good to know. I mean.
Yeah, I mean I also heard this for the first time, that you can call a function without these braces.
Yeah. This is only the template literals. We'll verify this thing, but this is like only the template literals.
Yeah, and maybe if some users are watching this talk, they can come with a scenario like where this is beneficial. Okay,
Yeah.
just
Definitely.
comment on the video below. You can do that.
Cool. Next topic is the destructuring assignment in ES6. This is an important or rather useful topic that I have really used a lot.
Can we check one thing in that previous discussion? What if I will pass a function as a parameter? Is it going to evaluate that, or it is going to just print the whole function?
Function is like in the dollar expression.
Not
You're
here.
saying?
I mean, just in the simple scenario. Yes. I mean,
Where do you want to pass the function? Can you take? Okay, you can't take this code. I'll put this code in the code bunk, and you tell me what you want to do with. How do you want to play with this code? We can do it.
okay, just put it in the code bunk.
Yeah, I have put there. Then what do you want to say? You can explain it. I have put it in the code.
What I want is like, here, the person instead of just Mike, it is like, a function which is going to do console.log. Hello, I am Mike. Okay. And let's forget this age. We are not passing the age. Let's just go here. Okay. And now, now the person is not a value, it is a function. Okay. And I have passed that function. So I'm just curious whether it is going to evaluate this
No, you because you never called that function, right?
or a return one. So it is not going to call that function.
It should not, because you never called that function. You cannot access functions inner things without calling that function explicitly. We can check that output, but I think it should not evaluate this person. You can you don't have to use return, Mike. You can remove that.
I just want to check what is the value it is returning. I mean, age expression is greater than 99. So what is wrong here?
What did it say? Okay, I changed this to
Age
that,
expression
that's
is not defined. Which you are using.
wait, I change it to this. It's exp, right?
Yes.
Where is that? It's age string, right?
Okay.
No.
Age exp.
Not on this one.
Let's forget this. I mean, we don't need this. Okay. We need person expression and the age
See,
expression.
it evaluated that. You can see there.
Okay,
It evaluated the
that
function as a string.
It didn't call that function
Okay,
because
it
you
didn't
never
call the
called that
function.
function.
All right.
It just printed that value of the function as a string, yes, as Atish said.
Is a youngster. Okay. Yeah, that is fine. All
So
right.
I think this is the same. So what would happen if you do
You can-
a variable output equal to some string dot concat, then the name of the function? This is the same thing. It is concating the things.
Yes, it is concatenating that thing, and also it converted that function to a like plain string.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Cool.
Let me run.
You can.
Why the age string
Age-
error is coming?
You use that age string, right?
So this is now console or return Mike is all right. But I
We can try calling this function here. What
yes
happens?
yes.
Now it evaluated it, because firstly it would have called this function
Okay.
and then
Mhm.
returned that.
Okay, fine. Let's go to the next topic.
Cool. Destruct. Yeah, we were on destructuring assignment. What is destructuring basically is, say, I'll give you example. In ES5, what used to happen was, say you have an array, which is a list array which has 3 elements, 1, 2, and 3, and you want to access the elements of the array, what you used to do is you do A is equals to list of 0, B equals to list of 2, assign these values to some variables, and then you can access A and B, the individual values of then at that array, right? But now what you can do is in the ES6 way, we have a same list array, and what you can do is you can just pass this as in square braces if it is an array. Otherwise, if it have been an object, then you pass it as in a curly braces. But it refers to is it will pick elements to like this 1, 2. It will replace this array with this, and then it will match this to the corresponding elements. It will assign A equals to 1, and second is we left blank, so it will be undefined, nothing. B will be 3. So this is how you can assign your values in the newer syntax. And say this last line doesn't do anything, just swaps two variables, and just I've written the syntax to swap two variables. You assign some temporary variable to A, then swap the values. And how you can do it in ES6 is you can just write BA and AB. It will swap for you automatically. You don't have to do anything. This is how the destructuring works, and it's really useful because every time you have to extract some property from an object, and also say you are using some library Lodash and you are importing something from that, you can just pass curly braces in that, and you can just extract that particular method from the Lodash library rather than having the complete library on your page. That we have already discussed.
And also, you are swapping in a very clean way. Now I don't have to use a temp variable for saving the value.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll see another examples for this, how the destructuring works in an object. This is the first case in which we destructure the object. Say you have a function getAst node which is returning to an object, and you call that function and store your returned object in the temporary variable, and you assign your values like tmp.op, tmp.lhs, tmp.rhs to variables. In newer syntax way, what you can do is you can just call that function, and this evaluated has those properties. It will have something like op property, which will have some value, say op or something, and similarly other properties. It will just extract those op, LHS and RHS, and will assign the values to OP, LHS and RHS.
So is it necessary to give the name of these variables same as the key of objects, or we can give any name?
No, it's necessary to give the same name as it is in the key of the object, because otherwise it will not recognize what key are you referring to. But in the second case, you'll see that if you want to use that as a separate variable, you can also assign to it as a separate variable. But you have to access it with the same property that is inside that object.
Okay.
This is one of the important things. I have seen people making mistakes that they don't have this property OP inside their object, but they think that by default it will assign it the first property.
People think that this is like an array, because the previous example in array we were not having any properties, so any name of the variable was assigned.
Yeah, so, in array you can always guarantee the keys in order, but you in object, Navtesh, go ahead.
It is going to return me like where first is equal to object, where LHS is equal to object, right?
Yes. You can access OP, you can access LHS, you can access RHS.
All right.
Yeah. Same to this as pnp.op. Okay. The dishes out if we want to assign it to some other variable, but still, what you have to do is
OP.
In ES5, what you used to do is you use variable A and assign to this. And what do you do now? You can, by colon separated, you can assign that variable name in which you want to put that property.
Okay. So my OP will be now A.
OP,
right?
OP will be A, yes. A is basically tmp.op. This tmp.op. You got this syntax if you want to assign it to some different variable.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, different name or different. Cool. We'll move to the third case, which is the object and array matching with default values. Yeah. You can, as we discussed default values, we can also use default values with the destructuring operators. How it works is, say you have an object which has a key A and say an array which has only one element, and if you do this, destructure that object into some variables, what it will do is it will replace it like this, and it will assign value 1 to A. But since the B does not exist, B is like undefined property, which is not defined, so it will assign 2 to that. It is the default parameters that we already discussed, that if you have some undefined thing, it will assign your default value to that.
So my B will be 2 now.
B will be 2 now. And same is the case with the array. You can do this to an array if you have only one element in this array. How we used to do this in ES5 was for object. Say you have to check if B was undefined, then assign 2 to B, otherwise assign obj.b. You see how the syntax has definitely reduced from. For that you have to write 2 lines. Now you can only write one single line saying this. So this is the usefulness of assigning the default values and destructuring
Quite
at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the next one is a parameter context matching. The name does not. I'll say, but say you have a function f, and in which you are passing some argument array, and this is like you are accessing the argument 0 in name, argument 1 in value, and you're just printing the name and value, and you're calling that function with, say, an array with 2 keys, bar and a value. But it'll do it. It assign this and this and this print this. How you do that in ES6 is you call that function same, but you do is you just destructure it here only, rather than getting those properties inside that method, rather than accessing these properties here, rather than doing something here. I can't type on this. So yeah, rather than doing something here, you just extract these when you pass this variable. So what it automatically do is it will assign name to bar and value to 42. This is destructuring while passing the parameters. You can also do it. This is very useful when you must have heard about the stateless functions in React, stateless components in React. This is very useful in that case where you can directly pass, like in this case, object. You can directly pass your name, like it is the props that you pass to the React component. Yeah, we'll discuss that later while discussing that direct thing. But yeah, it's very useful in that case when you use stateless components. You can just, you can also assign it to, say, you want to assign it to some n variable. The name property of object, as the syntax we have seen.
All right.
This or should
no.
Yeah, the rest parameter thing that we already know actually, but yeah, we'll go once through it. We have an array that has 1, 2, 3 properties, and you want to access that values of that. What you do is you pass A as first parameter, and the rest parameters, if you want to have 2 and 3 in the same array, you pass it as a rest parameters. And what will it do is it will have an array B that will have properties 2 and 3 inside it. One thing that that is to be noticed here is this rest parameters should only be the last argument of the array, because say if you pass C here, it will have nothing to match to C, because it will have assigned everything to B, and in current version it throws an error saying that rest should be the last parameter of the assignment.
Okay.
That is the only thing we need to notice here.
Cool.
Next is the computed object property. This is just another case you must have seen. If you want to compute some key of the object, you just pass it in curly braces. This is already existing in the early versions also. There is nothing new in it, so I'll skip this part. Okay, cool. Next is arrow functions. So what we can do is, I want to drink some water.
Okay, yeah.
Till that time, maybe we can pick one of your topics to continue.
Okay,
or do we want to go? Or do we want to go through these first?
Okay, so go and have a water. Meanwhile, I will, tell the users about the background of this talk, why we are doing this. Okay.
I have water
Okay.
bottle.
So we started this 2 months ago. Every 2 weeks, we are having this kind of discussion. And we started with the 2 members, and after that, Atisha joined, and now we are 3. And so it was our idea, to make this discussion live, because we wanted to spread the knowledge, and that is our intention. And also, the web domain is very dynamic. Every week something new is coming, and we want to get in touch with the latest technologies, and that is the basic idea. And that's why we are recording this session, so that other viewers can also see and they can also learn. Right.
So viewers, if you have any suggestions regarding if you want to have a discussion on some particular front-end topic or anything with respect to JavaScript or web in general, you can post a comment. So we may have a talk someday later about the particular topics in which you want to have a discussion or something like that.
Cool. I'm back. We will move to the next topic, which is the arrow functions in ECMAScript 6, which is also another very useful feature that these guys have added in ES6.
It is a very famous feature of
famous and useful, and it also, like, there were some problems with the existing versions of using the functions. We had to use the self keyword, that keyword to retain the context. So yeah, we'll discuss it. Cool. I'll start with, this is how you would write in ES5. Say you have a array that is evens, and you are doing map function on that. You have to explicitly pass a complete function inside that and return, say you just want to add 1 to that every element of the array to return the odd numbers. You just do return b plus 1. How you can do that in ES6 is, you can just pass a map inside a map a function. This is the arrow syntax. This is a parameter that the function will take equivalent to this thing, and this b plus 1 is a return value here that you would have returned from this function. So see how clean and how short the syntax has improved and has gone. You can just we'll move to different variations of how you can use the arrow functions. Similarly, you can, if you want to have multiple if you want to access multiple parameters from the function, you can give a parenthesis. But if you have only one parameter to pass, you can omit those parentheses, like we have shown in the other piece. I will move to further examples, seeing how complex, how easy, and the things have improved from ES5 to ES6. Case 1 is no binding of this anymore. But the issue was with the previous versions of JavaScript or ECMAScript was, say you have a function person which has an age, this dot age equals to 0, and say you have to do some operation after a certain time. You use set interval or set timer. You have to use that, and you pass the function, say grow up, and what it does is, after 1 second, it calls this function, and you want to increase the age of age parameter by 1. That's why you use this dot age plus plus. So what you expect here is that the reference to this is the same this, but it's a different this.
Yes.
But because what happens is, it goes into an event loop, and it will not. It's like a different thread. There are nothing like threads in JavaScript, but it's like a different event loop that the things get pushed on, and this reference will get lost when this set interval method gets called. So what you do to fix this issue in previous versions was you keep the reference to this. What you do is when that equals to this, and inside that function you do that dot age plus plus. You got my point, right? We refer to that same this, and we are all familiar with this thing. So we have to, every time we have to use set interval, set timeout, or anything else like promises we are using, or anything like asynchronous. We have to maintain the reference to this so that we can access those properties of this. But in ES6, what you can do is directly pass in the set interval method. You can directly pass the arrow function. What happens when you pass arrow function is it has no this of its own. It takes this from its parent function. Wherever or whatever its parent function is, it will take the this of its parent function. In this case, function person is its parent function. So it will refer to this. Any this that is used inside this arrow function will be referring to the parent this. So it will be this dot age plus plus. You don't have to maintain reference to this. You don't have to do anything else. You can just access that by using this, the same this as you were referring to. This is how.
So it is just like, in the previous cases, this was referring to the window, and now that this is referring to the parent function, and now we are getting the exact age which we want. Earlier it was undefined. Now the age will be 0, and you can increment that. All right.
So if you do a dot bind with this arrow function,
it is so behind the scene it is doing that. I mean, the set interval is going to bind with this particular context, and later on you are executing that. So arrow function will take care of that.
So it is the same thing if you do set interval with dot bind, correct?
Yes.
Window dot set interval dot bind, you can pass a person there, and later
dot bind and then the context of the this whatever this I want to pass.
Yes, that is the same thing.
So previously what dot bind used to do was it used to return a new function. So that function was not the original function which you passed to the set interval, but it was a copy of that function with that context.
I agree. And that is the reason, Atishay, in React, every time many people tells like, don't, bind your functions inside the JSX, because it will render, and every time, it will be giving you the new reference of the function. So it is always recommended, if you are using the ES6, like write in the constructor, bind once and use that function, use that copy, in your JSX.
Now, I think there is some twist with this arrow function. If I'm not very sure what happens with bind, but I think dot bind doesn't work with arrow function. Shivam, do you know anything?
It is not the, I'll explain it further. It is not the normal function that it looks like. It does not have the prototype property. It does not have the arguments property. It's just another implementation of the function. You cannot do new on an arrow function. I'll explain you these things.
Okay.
It is not a normal function that JavaScript has. It's just another implementation of those things. I'll show you. This is that case in which you don't have access to the arguments property. What happened in previous ES5 was, if you call a function, say by 3 parameters, what you do is you can just access the arguments property in that function, and can access the parameters by doing argument 0, argument 1, argument 2, anything like that. But in arrow functions, there is no property like arguments, because it's not the normal function. It is something in some other implementation of the function.
And they have also, rescue us from this particular scenario. Like, you can't access the arguments, but yes, you can use the REST operator to access the parameters. So if you are not able to use the arguments, you can use the REST operator in arrow function, and that will do the same thing.
Right, but what happens is you have to pass a parent function in that case, because it does not have its own arguments. It will take that arguments from the parent function. I'll explain you this. Say this was the case, and in a function you have inside declared. What happens is I have to wrap my arrow function inside a new function to make use of those properties. I call this function with a parameter 1. What happens is it internally returns it. it can this arguments that you can access here it's from here, this arguments.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, this you can do it from here. And this is argument 0, which we have passed, which is 1, and it will add the I, that is you internally call that function with parameter 2. So
And I in this particular case is undefined, right?
This is just a defining of.
Okay. You are calling that function from inside.
From inside.
You are passing to that.
Yeah,
Right.
so I was passing 2 from. It's just a defining of the function. It's not calling it.
Okay. And
This is what I am doing to access the arguments.
arguments. Okay.
Yeah, I have to wrap it inside a parent normal function, which is not an arrow function.
Okay.
So it's not like arrow function like removes all the things that you are using previously. If you want to access arguments, if you want to access prototype property from function, if you want to do a new to that function, you still have to use the old previous versions of JavaScript. You have to do this and then do a new on that. This is also similar thing that we already know, that you can access arguments. That is this. There is also different arrow functions are used as methods of an object. It is not recommended to use arrow functions as a method of the objects. I'll explain why.
Okay.
Because it adds some complexity or something that you are aware of, but when you write the code, you'll not be, maybe you can skip that. So I'll explain that. So you have an object and you are giving a key I, which is a value 10, and you are binding a B property to that with an arrow function, which is logging this dot I and this. And you also have another C property, which is doing it in the older way. You are not doing
this dot I and this. All
yeah,
right.
this today. But what we have discussed previously, that to what function arrows this refers to. It refers to not to this object, but its parent object, right?
And that is the window.
That is the window in this case.
Yeah.
If we have some function over it, it will have a function. So that is window in this case. So when you do obj dot, like we'll start from C. If you do obj dot C, X is this object. So this dot I will access this, and this will refer to the object. But if you call that arrow function B, what happens is since this refers to the window and window dot I is undefined, it will print undefined, and this will be the window object.
Okay. I was not, I didn't knew that.
Just remember that in arrow function, it always refers to the parent function.
Yeah.
Even the context doesn't matter, because
So here the parent function there is no parent function, so it takes window.
Yeah. If you have some function here,
Yeah, it would have taken that function.
It will take that function. This is like this is what happened when you're doing testing. You can observe this behavior. You use arrow function with the it block. It refers to the parent. There is some complexity when you use this arrow function with a test. If you are referring to this keyword inside the test, yeah, but we can omit that for now.
I think this is the most misunderstood concept. Do you have a link of arrow function on ES6 specs?
Yes, I have this open with my.
Okay, do it later on. Later on, post it in the description.
Yeah, but
I'll share this document with you guys. This and also the link referring to this.
Share it in the description of the video.
Cool. I'll do that. And next case is we already know that these are not the normal functions, so this cannot be used as constructors. Say you define this as where foo equals to new arrow function assignment, you can't do foo is equal to new foo.
Okay, we can't do that.
Because it's not a constructor, it's just some internal implementation that maybe we can keep it some for other talk, that how it internally implements it.
Foo is not a constructor. Okay.
And don't have a prototype property, because otherwise if I do function normally it has a prototype property.
Yes.
But if we do it via arrow syntax, it does not have a prototype property.
I thought I know arrow functions, but after this talk, it's like I know nothing. I mean, there is.
It's like we just know the basic things, that this is another implementation of a function. This is all I knew.
Yeah.
Even I have used these functions a lot.
Yes, I mean from 6 months I'm using the arrow functions, but I was not aware like it doesn't have a prototype. And viewers, that is the reason we are doing this talk. I mean, there is a lot of things which are going around, and you can't keep track. You need these kind of discussions to keep yourself updated.
Yeah. Cool. Next is, if this is a simple syntax, if you have multiple statements inside your arrow function, you can do that in a text, and you have to explicitly mention return in that case. Otherwise you can omit the return keyword.
Okay.
And you can also use them as an immediately invoking function expressions that we can do that. This is a function. But we have to be aware that not all the properties or not all the things that were there in the previous versions of ES6 are accessible here, because it's some different internal implementation is different for the arrow functions.
All right. So arrow function doesn't have the prototype property. You can't, use it as a constructor function, and don't, use in the object as an object method because it is going to, Okay, cool.
Cool. We'll move to the next topic then. The next topic is promises in ES6. Okay. Cool. As from our previous talks that we have not recorded, okay. I think I omitted one thing. Oh, no, this is.
I think we should skip promises. We will do promises in the asynchronous.
I agree. I mean, this is the whole new topic, and we can have a detailed discussions on.
We'll be having a detailed discussion on all these asynchronous features.
Yes.
Cool. Then we'll keep it for the next talk.
Okay.
Cool. The next one is the generator function that we also have omitted for now. The next one is the block scope let and cause. I'll continue with that. This is basically the newer implementations of the where keyword in the ES6. What you used to have is that you used to have a variable keyword, and you always have to do that. Even if you have to declare a constant in your JavaScript file, you were not allowed to do that because there was nothing to declare a constant in JavaScript. We'll start with the constant keyword. What features it brings to us? In ES5, there was no way of defining constants, but what you could have done is you could make a new there were still some constants like math.py and math. There are some math.number or something. You can access those. How they were done internally was the object has a defined property which it takes some value, enumerable, writable, configurable things, and you mention the name of the object here, pi, and you do the writable property as false. That means once you have defined your pi variable in the scope of your application, you can't modify that again because you have mentioned this writable property false. So that was the way to declare constants. That is really a not clear and a messy way to define constants in previous versions. Now what you can do is you can just mention constant pi equals to this value, and it will never allow you to override this pi variable again in your entire application in the same context. Actually, I'll explain that what the same context means. Because JavaScript has include block scopes now. It was like previously it was an application scope. Now the scope has reduced from application to block levels. I'll explain what block level means. This is like implementation of other languages like Java and all. Yeah, we'll see the first case. It says it cannot be reassigned. That we know that if we have a constant my favorite equals to 7, we can't reassign this variable. It will throw an error saying that this constant is already declared. The next thing is how object behaves if declared constant. This is one of the important things. Because what we understand is what I understood before reading this. Say if I assign some object to a constant, I can't modify even its keys, but it's not like that.
Yes.
You can modify the values and keys in that, but you can't change the reference of that object.
Yes. So you are freezing your reference by using the const. You can't change.
Right. Yeah. I'm just freezing my reference, but the properties are still mutable. You can change the properties.
Okay.
And what is the scope of this constant? So variable are
it's a block.
Okay, got it.
It's a block level scope. I'll explain you what is a block level scope. If it's defined inside a function, it has only the function scope. If it is defined inside an say
if
block, if it has an only if syntax.
Let us say
scope.
if for in any block.
If all the blocks, all the curly braces that you see in the code. This is the thing that we can't override. We can like override the key, but we cannot override the complete reference because it will refer to another object. Same is the case with an array. If you push something to a new array, it will allow you to push, but if you assign a new array to that, it will not let you do because it will change the reference.
Okay, I want to add some few things like using const is recommended, but it also leads to the problem like the memory leak. How? Because how the JavaScript work is like the garbage collection happens internally. JavaScript takes care. Okay, so if you are freezing your reference to a particular object, then that cannot be the garbage collected. So use the const, but don't use everywhere. Otherwise, the memory leak will happen, and your memory size will grow with the application. So just take care of that.
Right. This is all about const keyword. Nothing else. I'll explain the scope thing in the next when we take a different example for the let keyword. We'll explain how the scope thing works. There is nothing more to discuss on constant keyword because you already know that it's a constant and can't be modified. Yeah. We'll move to the let keyword. This is how there was a thing like if you wanted to assign some callback to your say method or something, how would you would have written that code in ES5? You say you have a callbacks array and you have a for loop which assigns a function. It is a closure function actually. I'll explain you why we have made this as a closure. Otherwise, what we'd have done is normally if you want to assign a callback, you do this. What you think is when you call this callback 0, it will like say you call this. This is not the expected output because what happens is when you pass this value to this, the callbacks I, because the for loop has already executed. Why? Because the variable I equals to 0 is defined here because what happens is we know the hosting concept in JavaScript. Variable I goes here and it is and when this for loop is executed, i's value will have been 2. I3 rather, because it will do I++ and it will check the rest again.
Correct.
So when you call this callbacks 1, you expect that this will call it with the i's value 1, but it does not call to that, because the value of I has changed to 3 and it will call it with the 3 into 2, which is 6.
Okay.
This is how previously you do things, but it was buggy. So what we did was, in previous versions of JavaScript, we of that variable, so that we want to have that variable always when you access that function. What I did here is, I made a closure of this function, and always when I call this function, it would have executed this with the value of I that I passed. This is how we used to fix this problem that I just mentioned in the previous version. But now, since you have scoped variables, this problem arises only because we didn't have scoped variables. We have variables that was defined in the total overall context. But now, since we have scoped variables, what we can do is, there is a let keyword that has been introduced new to the newer version. It just allows you to mention or declare variables in a scope. That means that I will always, it will not do this. It will not do let I, like previously we did, the where keyword used to do. This is not it, but it will only define it for this scope, the for scope, rather than the complete scope. So always when you call this callback function, it will have a different value of I, because the scope is this, only this this line only, rather than the complete scope. So this is like a really good improvement that we always wanted, to avoid this closure constructor construction, to just.
I mean, this is a very famous interview question, and now the people can tell, like, we can use let
Right.
and escape from this question. Cool.
Yeah, every interviewer asks you the same thing. Yeah. Cool. This is the let keyword. Just some more examples of this. Variable versus let. Say you have a function which tests you. It's just the previous ES5 syntax. You have a variable x equals to 1 defined here, and if true, you do variable x is equals to 2. What happens is, since it refers to the same variable, it will modify the same variable, because there was nothing like globe scope before this ES6 version. So it will refer to the same variable and will override that variable. So if you print this variable here, it will print value 2, and even here it will print 2, because it has overridden here. But now in the let word, what it allows you is, you have a variable x in the outer scope and you have a variable x inside the inner scope. This scope is, since this scope is different, it has nothing to do with this x. So what happens is, if you print this x, it will refer to the x that is inside this scope, and if you print this x, it refers to this scope.
Yes.
There's a difference, basic difference. How let solve some problems for you. Yeah, there's a thing called hoisting in JavaScript that we know. What happens in the let and const keywords is, the variables are not hoisted if you haven't initialized them. This is some state called as temporal dead zone. I'll just explain what is that. You cannot, before ES6, you say if you have a variable bar equals to 1, you have defined in your function. What we used to do is, we can do console.log bar, because we know that internally this implementation would have happened. It will have hoisted that variable assignment to top, and it will assign this value here. This is like the implementation that would have happened internally. So if you not a, sorry, bar.
Bar, yeah.
Yeah, you can access here bar, it is undefined. But in the case of let, if say you have a let foo equals to 2, you cannot access foo before that.
Okay.
It only gets activated, or it only gets activated saying that if you it only gets activated when you initialize it value. You cannot access this let keyword before you have initialized. So make sure that you have initialized this let keyword before using
Yes,
this.
and this error is very serious. I mean, it is going to stop the execution of your code. So
Right.
take care of that. I mean, at the top of your function, declare all the let which you want to use inside your function. Okay. Otherwise, you will get into this kind of confusion, this type of error, and it will break your application.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I'll just give another example showing the mixed usage of let and const. Say you have a function, you have defined a let x inside the scope, and inside that you have a constant x which you named sneaky. Since we declared it as a let variable and it's a different scope, so when you we have declared a constant x in this scope, and say you want to change the x foo, uh, considering that you thought that you wanted to change this let, but since you overridden that, like we have a scope thing now. This scope is new scope in new version, so it will define a new x in this case, and it will treat x as a constant because it was declared constant here, so it will not allow you to override that. And if you do say let x equals to inner in this scope, it will say that x is already declared in this scope. It will say error already declared in the block. It will not allow you to redeclare it, although you can change its value, but it will not allow you to do this. This is the basic usage of let and const. You can always look for some examples on any of the websites or ES6. This is also, I think I have taken this example from the MDN website of ES6. Cool.
So just a cool
Is there
thing
any-
over here. Have anyone tried to implement let function in ES5? Sorry, let keyword in ES5. How it would be?
No, I haven't.
I'll leave it to you. It is a very funny thing. I mean, we convert everything to ES5. So just think over it. How would you convert a let keyword in ES6 to ES5?
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next topic. It's just a,
Right. Maybe users can try
notice.
doing this.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll move to the next topic, which is classes in ES6, which will be facilitated by Navtej.
Okay. So it's my turn now.
So just a quick thing. How many topics are left? Because it's already 4 o'clock. So classes, modules, and what? Only 2 things are left.
I think we are going to cover the classes, and this discussion is going till from I think 2:30 or maybe later, right?
2:30. Yeah. So it's around 1.5 hours. So we will be discussing classes in
I
detail
think,
because it is very important than modules. Is there anything else left?
The thing is, we'll continue our talk till 4:30. It will always be a 2-hour talk because since we started today at 2:30. So we'll see at 4:30. We'll discuss modules in ES6. We'll discuss that. Otherwise, we'll stop on classes.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Cool. All right. So I think I should share the screen now. So Google Hangout or the desktop?
What did you say?
Desktop.
Desktop. All right.
So Shivam, just post the link of the article which you were discussing and also whatever links you referred so that it is easier for anyone to.
Cool. I'll share it. I'll share it. Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to discuss about the classes, and first of all, we will discuss why modularity matters. Okay. Earlier, JavaScript was not standardized. Every person, was writing code in his way, and there were pretty standards like you have to use the revealing modular pattern, or you have to use the singleton pattern and all, which provides the modularity. But it is the ES6, where the things has been standardized, and now the import keyword and the export keywords has been introduced, and your single file can behave like a module. Okay, so you can write your code into the file, and you can export that file, like say a particular class or a function, and in the other file you can import that. Okay, so now our code is modular. We don't have to use the strict keyword here also, because the ES6 will take care of that. All the variables which are referred inside a particular file, like a file, it is going to stick with that file. It is not going to attach to the global scope. So your global scope will not get dirty. Okay, so I'm going to discuss quickly about uh, how to import and export in the ES6. Like, let us say you have a lib. Okay, you can export where a is. You can import that into your app. You can import that by reference, because it is the named variable, so you need to use a, and you can use that from path. All right, you can also give the function there. You can also export the function. You can also export the class. Okay, and you can import in the app.js. And just don't feel like if I'm using var a is equal to 42 and it is going to attach to the global scope. It is not going to happen. Right. And we can also use the default uh, exports. Like I can use a default. This is a particular my function. It is a function. Okay, and I can use this. All right, and in the app.js I can import and now this is not the named one, and I can use my own name. Like I can use ABC or XYZ, because it is the default export, and I can use it. And this default exports we are using in our React application from time to time, and where I want the other developers to restrict. Like if I will be using the default, then every developer, if that is using that particular utility file, it will be using his name. So in that particular scenario, I am using the named one, because he cannot use the different name. He has to use the same name in the import syntax if I have exported with the named module. Okay, and beside that, you can also use the alias. Like this is the named export my function. This is the named export, and you want that to be included, but as a different name, like XYZ alias of as my function. Okay, now your XYZ will be the function which you have imported. Uh, you can also use the star keyword, which is going to return an object, and that object will be holding all the references of the exported functions or the variables in your lib file. Okay, I think you are clear with the basics, right?
Right.
Okay, so
One question. When you default, when you export star, like you export star as complete file, does it also includes the default ones or just the named ones?
default ones. One file should have only one default export, but it doesn't mean like you can't export the named one. You can use that. If you are trying to import as a star, you will only be getting the reference of the named one. You will be not getting the reference of
The default.
yeah. So that is the case.
Okay. Cool.
Right. So this is the modularity in the ES6. Things have been standardized now. And now we are jump into the classes. I mean, this topic is very vast, and I will cover most of the topics. Uh, and if something will, left, we can discuss that in the next talk. All right.
Yeah, sure.
So we know that uh, how many ways are there to make the objects. Okay, so first way is the object literal, which we can use to make the new object. Second is the constructor function, as we have already discussed, like it is the function which we can call by the new keyword, and it is going to uh, it is going to return a object which I can use. Okay, and the third way is to use the object dot create. It is also the function in the ES5 which many people are still using. And what it is going to do is, like, it is going to create the new object, and you can pass the prototype property as the second parameter. So it will create the new object, and it will assign the new object prototype property to the previous one, and so the inheritance will be there. All right. uh, so let me show you PS6 sorting a car array button class like this. Okay, so we are familiar with the ES5 way. Like, this is the function constructor method. It has a property like the this dot name equal to name, and when I am going to make a new object or new instance, I am going to call this function as a by the new parameter by passing the Rafael name, and this person dot name will be Rafael. And behind the scene, what it is going to do is, like, it will create a new object, and the whole blueprint of this will be the constructor. All right, so any property which you have given will be in your object. It will be in your object. And if you want to attach some of the methods, you can use the person dot prototype property, because every function has a prototype object which you can use. Okay, and the next time you want to access that particular method, so what it is going to do is, like, it will first read inside the object. If it will not be present, then it is going to chain up. Okay, and it is going to read under the underscore underscore proto property, and if that method is there, then it will not give an error. It can be executed, otherwise error will happen. uh, the second is the class literal notation or the object notation. We can also make a object by this one. Okay, like, my object is the person. It has a method like the set name, and it is using this dot name is equal to name. Okay, and the person dot set name, I set that person to Rafael, and the person dot name will be this. Okay. uh, we can also we can also mimic the singleton, uh, I mean the factory functions also. We can do that. So let us comes to the ES6 part. Okay, so what's there in the ES6? Now there is a class keyword, which you can use to define your class. And it is the it is sugar over the previous constructor of functions which I have showed, because the class now is going to take care behind the scene of your prototypal inheritance also. So let us say you want to create a human class. Okay, class human. So this is your human class, and you can define a constructor that will be the blueprint of your class. You can give a function name here, like my function one. it is function. Okay. And the constructor is the property, when you will try to make the instance of this particular class, like where navtej equal to human. What it is going to like, it is going to call the constructor first, and it is going to return an object. Okay. And see here, I'm not using, the human dot prototype, which I used to do in the ES5. Now the class syntax is going to handle this thing. Okay, so everything which I am defining like this is going to get attached to the human prototype. Okay, so it will be like, the human dot prototype dot my function, human dot prototype dot my function. Are you getting this?
Yeah, we're getting this, but what if I don't want to attach my every function to prototype?
You can use the static keyword here.
Okay,
So what it is going to do is like, the navtej instance is not going to my function, but you can access that function by using the class dot my function here. So we are going to discuss that later. But if you don't want, the instance to have this particular function, then you can, proceed by using the static keyword here. All right. Okay, so the next thing is that Atisha there? I mean, he's
Yeah,
very
yeah, I'm
silent.
there.
Okay. So this is the classical prototypal inheritance, which has a human object, and it has two methods, and it is going to, console.log this.name, which is the human itself. Okay. And I told you like there is another API like object.create. I can do the same thing by using that too. Okay. And where are my notes here?
which software are you using for this thing? Evernote.
This is the Evernote.
This is good. Looks good. You can insert videos. You can insert text. You can
What is this
Yeah.
Evernote?
snippet.
You can
it create notes.
yeah, it is to create notes. So destructuring is there. Okay, default value expression list parameter. Just give me a second. I mean, I'm
No problem. I can drink water till that time.
okay. So as I told you, like the class keyword has been introduced, which you can use. Okay, and you want to create the instance, you can use a new keyword of that class definition, and you will get the instance. Okay. And it is going to take care of the inheritance also, because the method which you have described inside the class are going to attach to the prototype itself. So every time, if you are creating 3 to 4 instance of that particular class, those instance will be holding the same reference of those functions. Okay. So what is the super? I mean, the super keyword is also there, which we have to use. Let us say you have created a human class here. You have created a human class and you want to create a new class like where man is equal to, sorry, class man. It also has a constructor property. And here I need to use super. And what it is going to do is like, the next time. So I created a man class and I wanted that to get extend from human. Okay. And the next time, when I'm going to create navtej, like navtej equal to new, it is going to first call the constructor of this particular class. and inside that particular class I have told, like, call the constructor of the parent class, which is the human. So first the constructor of this particular class will get executed. Later on, the constructor of the human class will get executed, and all the properties which I have mentioned here, like, this dot name is equal to human, and I will be having that here, Navtej dot name. I will be getting human here. Okay, are you getting this?
Yeah.
If I will be not using the super, so what will happen is, like, I can only access the prototype properties, like I can access the my function, but the properties which have been described inside the constructor are not going to get into this Navtej object. So that is the main difference. All right.
Okay, that means if you don't call super in your man class, you can access all the prototype method, but can you access the method that are referred by static?
The static methods. Okay. No,
Because yeah.
I cannot access the static method here. I mean, in the class B you are referring, right? In the class man.
Right, in a class man. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, we can only access the static methods by using human dot my
Yes,
function.
human dot or man dot. You can use this. Like, if this has a static method, then you can use the
Right.
man dot. All right, but those will not be the part. I mean, they will not become the part of the instance itself.
Object, right.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you have to do this similar thing in, let's say again, ES5,
Okay.
so is it that the new class which you created and extended human, so is it that in this new function, in this prototype of new function, you are attaching all the prototypes of the previous constructor? So just can you draw the
Yes.
parallel between?
Okay, so what it is going to do is, like, it will be my
Basically, it
construction.
will be copying all the
It
prototype.
will be, all right. So it will be my constructor function, and that constructor function. So what extend is going to do is, like, man dot prototype. Okay, equal to human dot prototype. It's going to do the same thing, like the extend here.
Seriously, this thing.
Yes.
I doubt.
There is
because
much
it
more
will,
than this. There is
yeah,
much more than
because
this.
this thing will override the prototype of man. If you have some methods in man prototype attached, it will override that with human prototype.
So what it is going to do?
So I think it creates a new function inside it. Now this inside this new function, you attach something to this, the context of this, and you do everything like that. I'm not very sure right now, but that's how it is done. You create a new function, you attach the this of the previous function to that, and there is something
Okay.
else.
Okay, from next time what we can do is Babelify. There is a website. Like
Yeah, we can
Babelify.
see that thing in Babelify. Yeah.
Yeah, from next time you can. Yeah, if you have doubts.
So one thing here, so there is a Chrome extension ES5 Maker which does the same thing. You can install it on your new tab of your Chrome, and you can always do a POC. You don't have to go online. It runs offline. You can save the sessions. And I'm saying this because this extension has been created by me, and provide any suggestions if you have. It is a very quickly. I did it in like 3 to 4 hours. Maybe it could be some buggy, so I use my own extension to do that. ES5 Maker, it is on Chrome.
There's a great thing. We can you ping me the link? Is it on Chrome? Is it a Chrome extension?
It is a Chrome extension, but yeah, it is a bit heavy right now because I haven't optimized it. I was using it for my own purpose, so I'll ping it.
Cool. We'll just ping us the link or share it on the YouTube.
Yeah, I'll share.
We'll take it from there. Cool. Next thing. Cool. Natesh, you can continue.
What are we going to test? I mean, yeah, this thing. I'm not pretty sure. I mean, what this extend is going to do. Maybe I can. Maybe we can
So,
discuss in the next talk. If you guys know,
okay.
you can tell me. I mean,
Let me do this right now in my ES5 maker if you permit. I will do that.
yeah,
Yeah,
just go ahead.
Let me
and
then
just
share my
just
screen.
just, just share your screen. Yeah.
Let me test if ES5 maker is working fine or not.
Yeah, that's a good way to test.
So this is my ES5 maker. It works offline, it works online, it saves your code, class XYZ. So that's how a class is implemented in ES5. So on right hand side, you can see the ES5 version. Here it is ES6 version.
It
Um,
is a really cool thing. Can you just increase the font of your text? Command plus. Yeah, that's good. Fine.
constructor. What I do in constructor?
Just give the
Name
name.
equal to Navi.
Just make a new method and we'll test that prototype thing. Just make some method
Class
inside that class.
ABC EST and friends
Yes.
Extends XYZ.
XYZ
Call the constructor in this method.
constructor.
And
And give the name property to and give the name like no in the ABC, like give the name like ABC.
Here
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
ABC name.
You need to use the this, I think.
Let me
Yes.
also create a function also.
With the name, also pen the this dot name.
Right. Console.log.
Console.log this dot name. Now this is our ES6 version, correct?
Right.
Yes.
And this is, let me reduce the font now. This is the same equivalent of, so it is not copying the prototype, it is creating some new function and it is doing like this.
Uh,
So one thing I'm very happy that my extension is working fine.
Yeah, that is
It
working fine.
has it has converted everything.
So it is going to create a new function and all right, yeah.
See,
So
ABC is function underscore XYZ. It has created a method
oh,
inherits.
see this
okay,
this
okay, okay, okay.
possible constructor return. By I think it's using internally object.assign to assign those properties. Like that. Yeah.
All right. So yeah. So extend is not going to replace the
So
current
here is the subclass dot prototype. It is
object
creating a
dot
new
create.
object
Okay.
and
Okay.
Superclass
Yeah.
and superclass.prototype. It takes from both the values, right? And also see what it's doing is it's setting the prototype of the parent object to it has enumerable property that we discussed, that how to declare constants in ES5. It is setting that writable property to false, so that from the child object you cannot modify the parent prototype
Mhm.
properties. It's really cool.
Yeah, we can use that extension. I mean, to check.
I will improve my extension. I will improve the layouts. I will do some CSS work on it. I created it like 6 months back.
Okay. So maybe you can give a session how you created that to the viewers. I mean, which
Yeah.
I'll do that.
How to create Chrome extensions. We'll keep a session on that.
It is completely written in ES6 also.
That's good. Taking
okay.
the advantage of the latest technologies.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue where we were.
Okay. So
We just a time check. We have only 5 minutes left. So, will will we be able to complete the classes?
I don't think
So,
so. I mean,
so,
there is a
so
lot of
let's stop here. Let's postpone these classes and modules to the next talk along with the asynchronicity.
Right,
Yeah, we
right.
can do
That
that. We
makes
can do
sense.
that. I mean, classes are very vast. I mean, we need to, also discuss the super. We need to discuss nude or target property, how the inheritance should happen, and whether the inheritance is more beneficial instead of the composition. I mean, still the debate is going on. Some people prefer composition, and some people prefer inheritance, and it I think we have to make another session, and we can postpone our talk on that particular
Yeah,
session
definitely.
for
Then
that session.
maybe, yeah, maybe in the next session we can,
The next session.
we already have the topics: classes,
Yeah.
modules, asynchronicity, and if we have time, we can add npm, and maybe I'll do the current function as well.
Okay. And I think the next talk, Atisha, will you be able to?
I can take async await and promise part
Okay.
if you have, yeah, because I don't have any topics for the next
But
talk.
the next talk is going to happen the next week. We can't wait for a 2 week, to just complete. I mean, this is
So,
going to happen the next week, and I expect
Okay,
Atishay to cover the async part, and maybe you can help Atishay, and I will be, covering the classes again.
so I will be covering the
Later.
complete asynchronicity. So, the way I want to propose is why were callbacks introduced, why callbacks are hell, then why we move to promises, then there is something sequence. What is the issue with sequence? Why generator functions? Then why observables?
Okay.
I'll do that if you want
Okay.
this week,
Okay.
and we can do that. But it would be again a 2 hour talk. We cannot wrap in 1 hour or something.
Yeah,
Keep
I
it 2 hour.
understand that. I think
it's fine.
the
Yeah.
topics are more, the time is less, so that's why we are facing this kind of problem.
Mhm.
Atishay, Shivam, what I want you to do is, like, there are certain topics which we didn't cover in ES6, like the weak map, iteratables are there, and maybe you
Okay.
can take a look at them, and if the time will persist, you can, give a talk on those topics.
So you
Okay.
want it to be next week or next to next week?
No, I want it to be the next week, because this was supposed to delivered on a single day, but it didn't happen. So I want it to be completed by next week. All
No,
right.
so what do you think? If we want to do frequently talks, like after a week, we can make it a 1.5 session,
Yeah, yeah,
half
we
an hour
can.
session,
I
because
agree.
it's like, yeah, because even for the viewers or for some people who are looking at this 2 hour session, it's like difficult to maintain your concentration for a so long time. So maybe we can reduce it to 1.5 hour, and
Okay,
we can
fine.
do it consistently, like frequently, weeks in 1 week.
Mhm. So in today talk, there were a lot of topics.
Yeah.
I personally feel that these topics are. I mean, they're a lot for a single user to handle in a one talk.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Right.
can make our talk frequent with less content, and the
Yeah.
precise thing. I mean, the precise content. All right.
Right. Right.
Okay,
So
fine.
now
So
you want a talk next week and also next to next week. So 3 talks in continuation.
so what's the problem in that? Our talk will be
We,
1.5 hour.
it's not like we can decide on the next week if we have certain amount of topics for the
Just
next.
go and prepare for the talk, and if still some topics will left, then we can move that talk to next week. I have no problem in that, but yeah, try to, I mean, deliver that talk in next week.
So why I wanted to do it next to next week, I just wanted to maintain this frequency because there's no point in like covering too much things in a same go. If we want, we can cover async right away. It's not a big deal, but just wanted to maintain that frequency because async itself will take a lot of time. Then you can
Yeah.
probably decide what goes next. So I mean, anything, whatever you say. I
uh,
Yeah,
would
maybe,
prefer it
yeah.
on again just from a gap of 1 week, then again.
I don't want to get into same kind of situation, you know, after waiting for 2 weeks, we are holding a talk, and in that talk, you know, we were only able to cover the classes, or we were only able to cover the promises part. Again, you know, one topic will left, and again we will be waiting for another 2 week for that to complete. That's why I'm forcing you guys to, you know, hold a talk in the next week, so that at least we will be able to cover this part, one part. If we will be not able to cover the classes, that is fine, or the promises, that is fine, but you know, the at least something will be covered. So that is my concern.
What we can do from now on is, if first of all, we should keep as limited topics as we can
Yes.
do, because we should think that it should not exceed 2 hours of time span. And if
Okay.
by some means it exceeds that time, what we can do is we can make a talk, like we can have a talk and the next week,
Mhm.
just to, because yeah, as Navtesh said, it's good to have, it's not good to have like a too long interval
So let's
between the
discuss
two
these
same
things
things.
offline. We are online.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
maybe, yeah, we
So
can
Okay,
just
discuss
to,
guys.
this.
so one thing at
Cool.
the end. So just to conclude, so I used to follow one podcast, so I like one thing very much. So that thing just came at my mind. So at the end, what every host used to do, so they used to share some tips and tricks which they followed in their company. New app you started using, like Navtesh shared this note taker or whatever, I shared this ES5 maker. So at the end, so it is a compulsion for each one of us to share couple of things which they
Mhm.
discovered, or some new programming tricks, or it could be some app they
Anything new, anything informative. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
Good
So
idea. Yeah.
let me start from myself. So one thing I mentioned, I liked very much. Sorry, this ES5 maker. It's a Chrome extension I created, and we can use it for ES6 to ES5 conversion. Other thing
Mhm.
is, so yesterday I came across a website. So that website was having different episodes for deployment of your app. So what are all the possible methods you can deploy your apps. So there are very good episodes. So I watched one of them. So I post the link of the website. So these are the couple of things. Shivam, maybe you can now.
Which of the things you talk?
So one thing is my Chrome extension. So and other was the this website which was having episodes, YouTube episodes basically, to display different methods in which you can deploy your web application on Amazon clouds or Docker containers. So it was a very informative thing. So
Okay. I don't have anything new to tell, I guess. For
just
now, maybe.
anything.
No, anything. Let me think of. Till then, Navtesh can
You
continue.
can
Okay,
share
so
the ES6 specs which you right. So you can share
Yeah, you can
the
share
that
that.
it is very. I mean, people are scared of going to ES6 website, but if you are, you can approach the ES6. How did you approach it? Or you can share
yeah,
something like that.
yeah, right. Right. Actually, you said that in on ES6 website there is not a lot of information that you'll find. You'll not find much details about the things and how these are implemented internally,
Mhm.
or what are the different variations in that. People have shared or done different works and shared different links on the ES6 things
Mhm.
that they find that it might be useful for the people, and there are lots of links on the website. You can have them, and one of the most important that I found was the MDN website, because it has almost everything, because it's the latest.
Mhm.
Every browser gets on the MDN website, it's there. You can see which browser it supports, the all the versions, and it's like
So
really
just a
helpful.
comment on MDN thing. So how many of you know that MDN is publicly open? You can go and edit the MDN docs. It is publicly open to everyone. So why I mentioned this thing, there are several things which are at MDN. So MDN is a good reference point, but there are several things which are not explained correctly. So that's why I wanted to bring your attention to the ES6 specs. So it takes a time to go to the specs, but if you can make a habit of cross-checking thing or something which you are not, it is not the only thing, because tomorrow you can, and if you find that this thing is not properly mentioned on MDN, go and edit. So it is a public thing which is done by public and available for public.
And I also want to add one thing, like, so this is the first time we are holding this public talk, and so earlier, our talk used to be like 3 people we are discussing, and we are not recording that video. So from now onwards, I really liked the way the Shivam made that document, and so it was really nice. I mean, and Atishi and me, and we can also do that in the next talk, and we can make the detailed document. I mean, these are the topics and these are what we are going to cover, and this is going to help us.
Also we should have an agenda that how much time this thing will take, how much time this will, because we should have exact 2-hour frame. We should not exceed that.
And that was a Google document, right, Shivam?
Yeah, that was Google document. I'll share it.
Yeah, so how you appended the code there? I mean,
yeah, there is a add-on for that. For Google Docs, you have add-on like called as code block. You can add that code block to that, and you can insert your codes. And
so now what are your picks and tricks? Just mention your picks and tricks.
And you have 3 minutes. We'll wrap it up in 3 minutes.
Mine tips and tricks, like.
Evernote, one of the them.
Like I'm using the Evernote, I mean, to make the notes, and
so just share the link of the Evernote.
I will share that, and you can. It is a very popular software. You can use that.
Open.
Yeah, it is open, and I'm using. Earlier I was using it for other purposes, but now for day-to-day tasks and all, I'm using that. So this is Evernote, and that's the only thing which I can tell you right now.
Cool. And, that's really cool. But actually, you can embed your videos in that and all.
Okay, so I think let's wrap it. And we have covered, many topics, and still the classes are yet to be covered. We have to cover the async communication, and we will try, so viewers, we will be posting that video as soon as possible, maybe the next week or maybe next to next week, and it depends on our discussion. I mean, it depends on our decide. Okay, guys, bye. And
bye.
Thanks a lot for watching.
It was really a good thing. Thank you. Bye. And any suggestions or feedback?
Yeah, please post that.
Feel free to post.
Sure. Bye.